here. So thank you all for being here today. It's a beautiful day. Bears are playing, but they're winning. Good. How many people have like the little earpieces in, like, you know, I don't want strange cheering in the middle of the show. All right.
Ask the guy on that strange device in the back corner.
That's right. Excellent. Thank you all for coming here today. Welcome once again to those thrilling days of yesteryear, a live recreation of some of your favorite shows from the golden age of radio. And today, we thought, even though there's a big football season is kicking off today, we thought we'd also celebrate America's favorite pastime, especially in the 40s and 50s. Baseball was the rage. Baseball was America's sport, and parents and families and fathers and sons just loved the game and gave everything to it. It was the heyday of Americana, and there were heroes were born out of it, like Lou Gehrig and Ty Cobb and others. In fact, some that we'll be featuring today that have some strange names, like Babe Ruth. Probably, anybody ever heard of him? Yes, of course, we've heard about him. Well, probably we didn't know that, that he actually had a radio series that featured the adventures of Babe Ruth. And it ran in the late 40s, which took, sometimes, most of the time, true events that happened with Babe. Sometimes they made some stuff up, and they created short little fictional stories that really highlighted the heroism and the good-hearted and the American, majestic of our hero Babe Ruth. So we've got two shows, two episodes of that series because they're really, really short. One featuring how Babe met his sports reporter, and also where Babe actually was basically threatened to. What should I say? I shouldn't give it away, but let's just say the fate of the World Series is hanging on Babe. I know. Those shows actually both originally aired in the end of 1949, back in October, and then the next one in December, 1949. In between that, we will also celebrate and highlight the mighty Casey. And there was actually a dramatization that was created with a series called Favorite Stories that featured Casey at the bat. We all have heard this wonderful poem, but yet there's a whole backstory that goes along with it. And that aired originally on April 17th, 1948. Amazingly enough, 1 year earlier to the date, April 14th, 1947, two guys came on the stage on the radio and introduced, well, actually they introduced the world to a couple of classic baseball players, but they did it one more time on this date. See if you can recognize some of the players' funny names. I'll give you a hint. One of them's name was Who, the other was What, and the last one was I Don't Know. And he's on third base. So we're going to do these shows for you just as they aired, with sound effects, music, and lots of baseballs, strikes and hits and home runs and more. So please, you might want to imagine that you are sitting in the audience, just like here, watching your favorite performers do their thing in the studio, or imagine that you're sitting at your own home, sitting around the old Philco radio, anxiously awaiting for your favorite show to begin, and let the imagination take over. So, enjoy us now as we take you back to those thrilling days of yesteryear.
Now, you've got to get ready for the opening game.
Yes, I think we're going to play the Cleveland Indians.
Cleveland Indians, huh?
Uh-huh.
Fella pitching?
Certainly there's a fella pitching. Who do you think they use, a girl?
I know they don't use a girl. I said fella pitching.
What fella?
Fella with the Cleveland Indians.
Look, Abbott, there's 9 guys on the Cleveland Indians team. Now, which fella are you talking about?
Fella that's pitching. There's only one fella with Cleveland.
You mean 9 Yankees are going to play against one fella?
That's right.
You mean there's no other fellas in the outfield?
No.
There's no other fellas in the infield?
No, Cleveland only has one fella.
Well, this fella must be pretty good if they don't need any other players but himself.
Look, all the other players will be out there helping him.
You just said there was only one fella on the team.
That's right.
But where did all these other fellas come from?
Oh, you idiot. When I say there's only one fella on the team, I mean there's only one fella that pitches.
Look, Abby, when the manager of the team wants this pitcher, what does he call him?
Fella?
You mean he just hollers, "Hey, fella!" And this guy knows that they mean him?
That's right.
Woo, woo, woo.
His name is Feller, Bob Feller. And when I say there's only one feller on the team that pitches, that's it. And the fellow that pitches is Feller. There's the other fellas on the team, but there's only one feller.
Boy, are you mixed up? You mean the fella that pitches is fella, and there's no other the other fellas on the team, but they're not fellas?
Now you've grasped it.
Yes, I grasped it, but it keeps slipping out of my hands!
Ah, let's forget it. Let's get you into the sporting goods store and get you your baseball equipment. I want you to look right for the opening game.
Okay.
Play ball! Play ball with Babe Ruth! Play ball with the Navy! The United States Navy brings you the adventures of Babe Ruth. And here to tell you about the immortal Babe is the man who knew him so well, his pal, the popular sports reporter, Steve Martin.
There was a fella called Harry the Hat, another one named Babe Ruth, and a young sports writer named Steve Martin. And there was a bitter feud which changed all of their lives. But before I tell you about how the big fella and I became lifelong friends, when he saved my job and my future, maybe we ought to think about your future too. And I'm talking to you young fellas of 17 or more. I've been in the regular Navy or Reserve since I was 17, and I tell you, the Navy life is a good life. I know what I'm talking about. It's not only good, but productive, important. It was in the Navy that my love of sports really blossomed, when I discovered that I should write about them as well as play them. And the same thing has happened to thousands of other young men. They made lifelong friends and their futures in their hometown Navy, the U.S. Naval Reserve. Yes, the Naval Reserve offers the opportunity to study a trade and at the same time enjoy membership in an organization that's made up of friends working and playing together while enjoying the privilege of helping to keep America strong. Yes, sir, find out about your hometown Navy, the U.S. Naval Reserve. If you're over 17 and want to get in on a good thing, join the United States Naval Reserve, your hometown Navy. You can do it very easily by contacting your local Navy recruiting office.
You make a lot of sense to me, Steve.
Thanks, Jack.
Incidentally, you young men will want a copy of Play Ball Around the World, the intensely interesting booklet on Navy sports, which you can get without obligation at your local Navy recruiting office. And now, back to Steve Martin and the adventures of Babe Ruth.
I was a young reporter, fresh out of Iowa, and my first chance came along when the sports writer of the New York News Syndicate picked me to be Babe Ruth's personal writer. I was on top of the world when I went to the Yankee Stadium to meet the big fella. It was almost game time, and he was alone in the clubhouse with a skinny, sharp-faced character. When I opened the door, it looked like I had walked into a war.
I ought to punch him right in the nose, that's what I ought to do.
Let go of me, Ruth.
Next time I will, too. Only there better not be a next time. Now, come on, off you go.
Let go, you clown, or I'll
You won't do anything, you dirty little punk. No, you, out you go. And don't come back. That'll teach him that no good. Hey, who are you?
Well, my name's Steve Martin. I'm with the News Syndicate.
A reporter?
That's right.
What just happened isn't for publication. Got it?
I was going to ask you, well, who was that character and what was the
You
spell?
don't know who that was?
Nah, I'm pretty new around here.
Good. Then forget all about it.
What was that?
Forget it, I said. Look, Martin, I got to get out of the field, but if it's an interview you want, I'll meet you after the game.
Well, it's not exactly an interview.
Oh?
You see, I'm your new personal writer, babe.
Huh? No, you're not. I got a writer.
Well, what do you mean? The syndicate just assigned me to do the job.
Oh, yeah, they told me. Look, I'm sorry, kid. I had to tell them to call you off.
Why?
Well, there's a guy I worked with before. A friend of mine, see? I told the syndicate I'd kind of like to have him tell my stuff.
Well, that's a dirty trick. The syndicate picked me.
Now, don't get sore, kid. You're young yet. You've got lots of chances.
Don't give me that kid stuff. I'm as old as you are.
Okay. Like I said, I'm sorry. I'll try to square it with you sometime. I've got to get out to the field now. So long, kid.
So, the big fella double-crossed you too, huh?
Who are you?
Just call me Cully. I heard what happened in there. You know my babe done you out of that writing job, huh?
Sure, he wants it for a pal of his.
Uh-huh. You know who his pal is?
No, I don't care.
Well, you oughta, being a reporter. It's Harry Bogan.
Who?
Don't you know who Harry Bogan is? Harry the Hat, they call him.
No, I don't know. I haven't been in New York long.
No? Well, let me tell you about Harry. He used to be a big sports writer. He had a column. In the Hat, he called it. But the trouble with Harry is he couldn't let the bottle alone. Got so bad he not only lost his column, he couldn't hold a job.
What? You mean Babe Ruth turned me down for some washed-up booze house?
Sure he did. What does Babe care about a nice young fellow like you? He wants a guy like Harry around to go carousing around with at night.
Now, wait a minute. The sports writer told me that Babe likes to have fun, but he lives clean and keeps himself in condition.
That's a lot of baloney. Why do you suppose he's in a slump? He ain't hitting the sides of his cap.
Any player can get into a slump once in a while.
It's on account he's up all night with Harry the Hat, having himself a big time. That's why he's slumping, and that's why the Yanks are in 4th place.
Why, I can't believe it.
I can prove it.
You can?
Yeah, if I give you the facts while you write them up in the paper for your syndicate, you can show them up to the whole country for the guy he really is. Getting a big salary and not even keeping in condition. Letting down his team and all the fans. You call that playing square?
Well, no. What you say is true.
I told you I'd give you the facts, didn't I? Look, kid, this is your chance to get back at that double-crosser. And not only when you give the papers that scoop, you'll be a big shot reporter. You won't have to beg Babe Ruth to let you write for him.
My instinct told me not to trust Cully. But I was so burned up at the raw deal and I thought the Babe had given me that I didn't listen to my own instinct. Losing this job and the salary boost that went with it meant that I would have to postpone my wedding to the girl back home. About a week later, my editor called me into his office.
Steve, a good reporter always writes the truth. He doesn't let his personal feelings color it.
What do you mean, sir?
Ever since Babe Ruth turned you down as his personal writer, you've been making snide cracks at him in your stories. The big fella's the greatest ball player ever lived, and he's a grand guy.
That's what you think.
And so does everyone else who knows him.
They're wrong, and so are you, as you'll find out.
What do you mean?
I'll have a big story for you any day now. It'll knock your eyes out. And it'll wake up every fan in the country. You just wait and see. Hello?
This is Cully. Listen, when are you going to write that story about the big guy?
I haven't got enough proof yet, Cully.
I gave you plenty of proof.
But most of it hasn't been first-hand. I gotta see for myself.
Okay? Meet me at 79th and 2nd Avenue in half an hour. I'll show you.
I met Cully that night. An hour later, I was back at the office pounding out a little story that was going to ruin Babe Ruth and make me a star reporter. Felt a little sick writing it. But the arguments Cully had given me kept running through my mind.
He's getting the biggest salary in baseball, but he ain't even keeping in condition. He's letting his team down. He's letting the team down and the fans. You call that playing square?
I finished the story and looked up at the clock. There was just enough time to make the morning editions. I dropped my story on the city editor's desk and went home, feeling a little sick again, as if I had broken a beautiful statue. When I opened my door, the phone was ringing. Hello?
Steve, this is the city desk. We just got a flash Babe Ruth went to Westside Hospital.
What?
Hop right up there and find out all about it.
I made the hospital a nothing flat. I was the first reporter there. A nurse directed me to an anteroom where I found a tall, gray-haired man.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me, Father.
It's brother, my son, Brother Matthias.
Brother Matthias?
Yes.
Oh, you're the man who taught the Babe how to play ball at St. Mary's Industrial Home.
Oh, I gave him a few pointers, that's all. He was a natural ball player. Ah, poor Babe.
What happened to him, sir?
Well, nothing happened to him.
What? Well then, what did he do?
A friend who was very dear to him died. Harry Bogan.
Bogan?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Harry the Hat?
They called him that. He was a wonderful man.
Oh, yeah? He was a... Well, I'm sorry.
I understand, but judge not, my son. Perhaps had you been in his place, you would have done as he did.
What do you mean, sir?
Harry had cancer.
Cancer?
Yes, incurable cancer. But he never complained. No one even knew he had it. Except he, his doctor, Babe, and I. That was why he sometimes drank, though. And why he could no longer hold a job.
Oh, the poor guy. I didn't know that he had...
He had been raised at St. Mary's, too. And he helped Babe a great deal. And when Babe broke into baseball, well, Babe never forgot it. And when he got a chance, he made Harry his personal writer. Of course, Harry did very little writing.
Who did?
Babe.
Babe?
Yeah, it was pretty hard work, too. Babe isn't an easy writer. And after a tough ball game, and then trailing poor Harry half around the town at night, to see that nothing happened to him, well, Babe often sat up until morning writing Harry's stories for him.
So that's it. And I thought that...
I told you, it was no wonder his batting average slumped.
Great Scott, what a fool I've been.
You, my son?
Yes, me. I ought to have my head examined. I ought to put... Wait, what time is it?
Well, 5:40.
Oh, it's too late. The story's gone to press. The papers will be on the street in a few minutes.
What story?
The story that'll finish the big fella and me, too.
I don't understand.
I don't know what I can do now, but I gotta get back to the office. Goodbye, Brother Matthias. That jerk! You mean you didn't print my story about the babe?
No, Steve. Fortunately, we had a call from the district attorney in time.
District attorney?
Watching a gambler and racketeer named Cully Wilson. And the DA told me you were seen with Wilson last night.
Well, yes. You see,
And the DA wanted to know all about you. Well, seems that Cully Wilson tried to bribe Babe Ruth to throw a series. Well, the big fella threw him out on his ear, of course, and then reported the incident to the police. Well, I put two and two together and figured that Cully wanted to get back at Babe, and fed you this bonus malonus about Babe being a bum, and you, being young and green, had fallen for it. So I held up the story until I could check with you. Now, was I right?
Oh, yes, sir. I don't know what to say, except, well, I'm a sorehead and a chump, and shucks, I wish I was dead. I'll clean out my desk and go back to Iowa, sir.
Hey, not so fast, Steve Martin. I want to talk to you.
Babe!
I had to tell Ruth about it, Steve.
Yeah, sure, I understand. Well, babe, go ahead. Sock me. I got it coming.
Oh, no. I'm no dummy. If I sock you, you won't be able to work for a week. I can't stay up any more nights writing newspaper stories. I gotta sleep so I can start hitting again.
What do you mean?
What do you suppose I mean? You're my writer, aren't you?
Me?
Sure.
Now, wait, Babe, you can't be
Why
serious.
not? Didn't you tell me that Steve here has the makings of a great sports writer?
Well, yes, but that was...
So he made a mistake. I've made lots of them. Haven't you made any?
Yes, of course.
So, okay. Forget it. Everybody be happy. So when are you ready to come to work, Steve?
Well, anytime, I guess, babe.
Swell. Right now.
But, I don't know how to say it, babe.
Oh, forget it. I had a hunch. The first time I saw you, we were going to be pals. Come on now. Let's you and I go get something to eat. And I'll go to sleep, and you'll go to work. And that's the way it's going to be from here on in, okay?
Okay, babe. Thanks. There's a wonderful spirit in young fellas. I had it. All you young fellas have it. You want to get ahead. You want to be somebody. To have knowledge and skill that'll bring you success and security and a feeling of accomplishment. But I'll tell you right now, you can get all that and more in your hometown Navy, the United States Naval Reserve. You'll make new friends, you'll be trained and trained well in any one of the Navy skills. You have a chance for advancement, and by golly, if you stay with it for a while, you'll be eligible for retirement pay. Besides, from my own experience, I know these things to be true. And besides, you have a good feeling inside that you're doing something that's really worthwhile.
That's absolutely right, Steve. And remember, fellows, don't forget to get your copy of Play Ball Around the World. It's an exciting, colorful, interesting book that tells the whole story of Navy sports. And you can get it free simply by asking for it at your local Navy recruiting office. Well, Steve Martin, what have you got coming up next week?
I got a honey about a goat, Jack.
A goat?
Yeah, a goat named Sweet William who won a flag for the Yankees. See you all next week.
The Adventures of Babe Ruth is produced by Woody Close, directed by Ronald Dawson, written by Ben Freeman, and brought to you by the United States Navy.
This is Ronald Coleman, inviting you to radio's most dramatic half hour's favorite stories. If you've ever cheered a home run hitter or sunned yourself in the bleachers of the great American game, you will enjoy this week's favorite story. It's Casey at the Bat, the yarn that's full of laughter and memories. It's based on the celebrated poem by a newspaperman named Ernest Lawrence Thayer, who wrote the Chronicle of Casey back in 1888 when he was grinding out a daily sports item for the San Francisco Examiner. Nobody was more surprised than Thayer himself when his poem turned out to be an American classic, the favorite of every schoolboy and baseball fan. He thought it no better, no worse than his average daily item. As a matter of fact, shortly after he wrote it, Thayer quit the newspaper business altogether and became a successful manufacturer of woolens. But nobody's forgotten the saga of Mighty Casey and the Mudville Nine. Grantland Rice once said that he'd take his chances on fame and immortality if he had written Casey and nothing else. 100 legends have come down the years about the real Casey, the swinging hero of the bush leagues. We are presenting a yarn about Casey as this week's favorite story. It was chosen by a baseball great, one of the few players in baseball's Hall of Fame, Tris Speaker. He is the goodwill ambassador for the Cleveland Indians and caught the pennant for them as their manager back in 1920. Like Casey himself, Tris Speaker is a baseball immortal. We have an unusual cast. The stage and screen star Lionel Stander will play Casey, and baseball announcer Hal Berger will play the manager of the Mudville Nine. So here it is, Tris Speaker's favorite story, Casey at the Bat. Play ball!
Hi, my name's Nickerson, Hank Nickerson. I'm the manager and part owner of the ball team in Mudville. Oh yeah, there's a big frog in the little pond for you. Oh now, don't get me wrong, I like Mudville. It ain't Indianapolis, mind you, or Terre Haute. But it's a friendly place, and in my day, I've seen some of the best of them. The great Christy Masterson himself pitched an exhibition game here once, and one day I shook hands with Larry LaJolie. That's right, the great Napoleon LaJolie himself. Yes, sir. When you come right down to the most colorful ball player I ever seen was a member of this here team, Casey. What a sweetheart of a ball player. You want to sell tickets to a ball game? Give me a character like Casey every time. Take any summer day. This one, for example. The Mudville fans were out. Screaming the tonsils out for this big silly goof who knew the format for popping them right over the center field fence onto the roof of the Hen Laundry.
Okay, boss, when do you want it?
Any place you want to put it out up the field.
I consider that an order.
And watch that pitcher. He's got a low one that's mean, and that ump doesn't like it.
But that pitcher hasn't any more on the ball than September morn wears.
Better up!
Don't rush me, boss. Take that worried look off your face. That pitcher is out there on the mound with nothing but a belt buckle and a prayer.
Casey, I said better up!
I got ears, I heard ya. Don't get sassy. Okay, let's get this over with. And try putting the ball somewhere in this country, huh?
Quit badgering the pitcher. Play ball!
Keep your eyes open,
You take care of your job, Casey, and I'll take care of mine.
All right already.
Strike one.
What? Strike it? Crazy or something? That ball's so low it would have to reach up to touch bottom. What kind of idiots do they send to this league anyhow?
Casey, keep your big mouth quiet. If the gentleman behind the plate wishes to be a stupid, no-good, blind numbskull, let him. But he was not insulted.
I can see we gotta beat 10 men today, and one of them is blind.
Come on, Pop.
Okay, Timmy, this one's for you.
There she goes. It's up, and over. Don't hurry, Casey, don't hurry. I'll never find that ball. Do I need to tell you we won that game? 3-1, the score was. Casey made 2 home runs and a long 3-bagger. On the triple, he stole home. And was that ump ever mad when he had to call him safe? Like I say, Casey was batting way up in the 400s in the ballpark. But with his misses, he was batting a fat 0-0-0. And when I seen his kid Timmy in the stands, I knew we'd be having a visit from Mrs. Casey. Oh, she was a swell gal, but you'd get a little distemper too if you was married to a big walrus like Casey. Sure enough, she storms right into the locker room.
Where's that baseball player?
Mrs. Casey, please! There are gentlemen in various stages of undress. Ladies are not permitted in the locker room.
Where's Timmy?
Your boy, Timmy? Why, Mrs. Casey, what makes you think she'd be here?
Miss Abernathy at the public school said that Timmy didn't return to class after lunch.
Mrs. Casey, I am very perturbed to hear this. But your boy is definitely
Like I
not here.
said, Timmy, watch those pitches. The good ones and the bad ones, too.
I got it, Pop.
Sometimes you can learn as much from the bad ones about what not to do.
Casey?
Hello, honey.
Hi, Mom. Don't talk to me, either of you.
Gee whiz. If you didn't want to talk, why'd you come all the way to the ballpark for, honey?
Don't you honey me. Timmy, look at me.
Yes, Mom?
Did you play hooky again this afternoon?
Well, Mom, I didn't
I
exactly...
told him he could come. There was a pitcher he had never seen, and I figured...
Just as I thought. Timmy, how do you ever expect to be educated?
I don't want to be educated, Mom. I want to be a baseball player.
You see? Are you listening, Casey?
I hear good. I heard him.
Oh, Timmy, what am I going to do with you?
But, Mom, what good's long division? I want to learn how to pitch an outside curve.
Miss Abernathy don't know a thing about curves.
Oh, Casey, you big dumb ox. I don't think I mind Casey running off, or Timmy running off from school, but I can't see you're encouraging him. I just can't see it.
Yes, sir, Pop. That'll do the trick.
Oh, honey.
Come
Come
on.
here.
What do you want?
I just got the prettiest hair of any girl I ever
well,
seen. And the nicest smile.
See?
And the cutest little crazy nose. And the bluest
Casey,
eyes.
Casey, what am I going to do with you?
Look, honey, Timmy and me, we'll never cut school again. Will we, Tim?
You say so, Pop.
Casey, I wish I could just tell you to go jump in the Mudville pond, but I can't. I just can't, because I love you too much.
Excuse me, gentlemen. I gotta go put on some pants.
Your little long woolen underwear, you're the strangest Romeo I ever seen.
Hank, you're a cod. Ain't he a cod, honey? Make like a hoop and roll away, boy. That's it. A good laugh never hurt nobody.
Me? I wasn't laughing, because I saw the look in that doll's eyes. She wanted to get Casey out of Mudville. She wanted to get Timmy closer to culture. And in this town, they've taken the word out of the dictionary. Her folks were in Philadelphia, and I tell ya, every time I seen her looking southeast, I got visions of losing my clean-up man. Mind you now, I liked her. But in my book, she was like another opposition team on our schedule. And I had to figure out her tactics the same way. And try to match them. The way I heard it, things began to come to a boil one Saturday afternoon when we didn't have no game. Casey gets awful bored when he just sits around. Well, it happened like this.
I'm going to the meeting at the church.
Fine, Peg, fine.
Now, Timmy, keep practicing your piano for an hour.
Okay, Mom.
Casey, you see that he does. Understand?
Oh, sure, honey. Timmy, you stick to that piano.
I will, Pop.
Well, I'll be back in a couple of hours. Behave yourselves.
What you playing there, Timmy?
Let me see. It's called, scales.
Scales, huh? It ain't much, is it?
No. You want to hear a piece?
Sure.
You like that, Pop?
Sure. Sure.
It's called Flight of the Butterflies. That's awful sissy stuff, isn't it?
Nah, Timmy. The butterflies have gotta live too.
Yeah.
Timmy, I can't stand it! You and me, we're ball players.
You said it, Pop.
Come on, son, grab your glove. I'll show you how to throw an ump out.
Gee whiz, will ya? Come on.
Butterflies!
Yeah.
Okay, throw me a couple. Then I'll show you how to put something special on it.
Here we go.
Get that leg up. Wind slow. Atta boy, let it go. Oh, a good one. A strike in any man's league.
Swell.
Hey, keep working, Timmy, and you'll be a great pitcher someday.
Over my dead body, he'll be a pitcher.
Cheers, Mom.
Peggy.
Baseball is the only language you understand, Casey. So you better know this right now.
Hey,
as far as I'm concerned, you're up to bat. And just know you swung hard for strike 2.
Hey, you just...
One more strike, champion. You're out. And I'm going home to Philadelphia. One more strike and I'm leaving you for good.
Timmy, your mother has the soul of an umpire.
Have you ever seen a dame's eyes when she gets a big idea? It's a kind of wild, frenzied look. She starts fizzing like a sparkler on the 4th of July. Well, Peg got a big idea. She'd get to go to Philadelphia and have Casey too. It was near the middle of the season. Timmy was there because school was out for the summer. And Mrs. Casey, with a smile on her pan from here to center field, charges into the locker room.
Casey!
Hey, it's your missus.
What do you suppose I've done now?
I don't think anything. She looks happy.
Oh, Casey! Oh, there you are, honey.
Hi, Peg.
Hi, Mom.
Casey, I just received a telegram from Philadelphia.
Anything wrong?
Oh, everything's very bright. It's from my dad.
Oh, how is the old prune-faced dad? How is your father?
Oh, he's fine. Well, Dad got a good friend in the sporting goods business named Ben Shine.
Oh, honey, stop right there. I don't want to go into no sporting goods business.
No. Ben Shine bought a baseball team there, together with a young fella named Connie Mack.
Mac, that name sounds awful familiar.
Yeah, sure. He's a catcher. Yeah, with Milwaukee. Owns part of the Milwaukee team, too. Used to catch for Philadelphia. Good kid.
Sure. Well, what about it, honey?
Well, Dad told Mr. Shy and young Mac about you, and they're sending a scout down to see you tomorrow.
That's great, honey. What's your old man doing all this?
Well, because you'd be stuck in Mudville all your life if somebody didn't pull you up by the bootstraps.
Peg, don't count on this. The scouts sometimes look at you cross-eyed, and sometimes they don't like the color of your hair or something. Just don't count on it.
Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, Casey. You get in there tomorrow and play your heart out, and the first thing you know, we'll be living in Philadelphia.
We're ready to go back to the days of wide-brimmed hats and bustles, mustachios and bicycles built for two. One of the great players of American baseball has chosen Casey at the bat as his favorite story, Mr. Tris Speaker. The deep-voiced Lionel Stander is playing the mighty Casey in our radio dramatization, and baseball commentator Hal Berger plays manager Hank Nickerson. Now, if you'll slip back into the locker room of the Mudville clubhouse with us, we'll continue with the saga of Casey at the bat.
Well, that day in the locker room, I looks at Casey, and he looks at me. He sits there for a long time in his woolen underwear, after everyone else had gone home.
He just sits there looking at the telegram from Philadelphia. Hey, you better get dressed, Case.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Philadelphia is a big town.
Yeah.
Imagine they pay well at that ball club.
Imagine so.
I was thinking, Case, any scout that sees you is sure to want to sign you. Yeah, he'll like the color of your hair all right.
Nah.
You know, I ain't got nothing in writing with you, Case. But even if I did, I wouldn't stop you from bettering yourself. You know that, don't you?
Well, that's real generous of you, Hank.
You're like my own brother, kid. I wouldn't stop you from getting into the majors. Yeah, they're starting these World Series things. They'll be real fat pickings.
I don't stand a chance.
Of course, I gotta admit, this won't be the same team without you. Won't be the same town. Without you, we can toss in the towel right now on our big playoff game with Midtown. Flynn and Blake, they're no good.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to miss that game, boss.
Scout sees you, he wants to sign you, he'll want you right away in a couple of weeks maybe.
Go on.
And Philadelphia's a good town. Yes, sir. Of course, you can't raise your voice there. Gotta talk in whispers all the time, you know.
Can't raise your voice.
Oh, no. Gotta wear a necktie, too. Can't go to a restaurant for a cup of coffee if you don't wear a necktie.
You're kidding.
No, I've been there. High society stuff. Anybody you meet on the street, you bow to.
Bow?
Yeah, last time I was there, I bowed so much I got the lumbago.
That don't sound very tasty.
Say, I didn't tell you. I had a talk with Hagen. You know, the Midtown pitcher. He says he's going to strike you out in the playoff game.
He said that?
Those were his words.
Hank, I don't want to go to Philadelphia. I like Mudville. I like you. I like playing here. Maybe I'm a dope or something, but this is where I belong. I'm real happy here.
Why, Casey, whatever made you come to that decision? The next day, sure enough, a stranger shows up in one of the good reserved seats. And he has on a necktie and a winged collar. Now me, I've never been to Philadelphia, but I spotted him. He was a scout, all right. I was watching him out of the side of my eye when the officials from the field made an announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, a substitution in today's lineup for the Mudville Nine due to injuries sustained in warm-up. McClanahan for Casey.
I strolled into the locker room to kind of comfort the wounded Casey. When in comes a tornado, it was Mrs. Casey doing a slow burn. You could almost see the smoke pouring out.
Casey, why aren't you in today's lineup?
Well, I got a sore knee, honey. Look at this
You
bandage.
got a sore knee like I got $1 million.
Honey, just a minute.
You don't want me to have anything I want. You want to stay in Mudville all your life.
Now, what's that got to do with my sore knee?
I know your tricks. You just don't want that scout to see you, so you're playing possum. Well, you just swung hard for strike 3. You're out. O-U-T, out. I'm taking Timmy and we're going to Philadelphia.
Honey, wait a minute. Oh, honey.
You know that dame packed up and went home to mother? Can you imagine that? Well, you never saw a batting average go down so fast in all of your life. It's like I always say, you gotta think home runs before you can hit them. And Casey was walking around in a daze, like a lame bunt. The day of the big game with Midtown, I gives him a pep talk.
It's no use, Hank. I might as well get a job in a sporting goods store. I'm through.
So the gal walks out on you. Try to forget her.
I can't, Hank. I'm in love with Peggy. And I miss Timmy awful.
This one day, try to forget her. It's the big game, Case. We need you. We need you with your old spirit. Try to be spunky, Case. Give the fans their money's worth. They like their old cocky, swaggering Casey.
I guess I have been letting the fans down, Hank. I guess I've been letting my own troubles make me a bad ball player. And like you always said, boss, The fan's the most important part of the game. Oh, I'll swagger today. Plenty. But I wish I felt more like swaggering in my own ticket.
Well, we all know what happened that day. It was a pretty famous game. It got that way because a newspaper man named Thayer said it all down in sort of a poem. The way he says it is much better than I can say it. So if you don't mind, I'll borrow his stuff. It looked extremely rocky for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-6, with but an inning more to play. And so when Cooney died at first, and Barrows did the same, a powder wreath, the features of the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go, leaving there the rest, with the hope which springs eternal within the human breast. For they thought, if only Casey could get a whack at that, they'd put up even money with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, and likewise so did Blake, and the former was a puddin', and the latter was a fake. So on that stricken multitude, a death-like silence sat, where there seemed but little chance of Casey's getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive single to the wonderment of all, and the much-despised Blake tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted, and we saw what had occurred, there was Blake safe on second, and Flynn a hugging third.
Casey, Casey, we want Casey.
Then for the glad multitude went up a joyous yell. It bounded from the mountaintop and rattled in the dell. It struck upon the hillsides and rebounded on the flats. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was an ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was a pride in Casey's bearing and a smile on Casey's face. And when, responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded as he wiped them on his shirt. Then while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance screamed from Casey's eyes. A sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered spear came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching in a haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped.
Hey, my style!
Said Casey.
Strike one!
The umpire said. From the benches black with people, there rose a sullen roar, like the beating of a storm waves on a stern and distant shore.
Kill him! Kill the umpire!
Shouted someone on the stand, and it's likely they'd have done it had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumults, and he bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and again the spheroid flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said,
Strike two!
Fraud! Fraud! Yelled the maddened thousands, and the echo answered fraud. For one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey would not let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go, and now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Ah, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. Somewhere men are laughing, somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out.
Dang, I'm awfully sorry. And sorry I let you down, you and the fans.
Forget it, Casey. Forget it. Spin around. See who's here.
Hi, Pop.
Timmy? Timmy, when did you get back from Philadelphia? You shouldn't have run away from your mother.
Well, Pop, I'll tell you how it happened. Mom and me, we was sitting in Philadelphia. I was practicing the piano. I guess she didn't like the flight of the butterflies either, because she started to cry. So I went up to her and I said, Mom, no good ball player only gets one crack at the plate. Why, even Ty Cobb himself even strikes out once in a while. I guess she agreed, because she came back with me.
Did she hear Timmy?
Right in the stands.
Hiya, Casey!
Oh, gee whiz, gee whiz.
Go on, kiss her, Pop. Pop, hey, Casey, hey, champ, batter her up.
You've been listening to Casey at the Bat, an original story concocted by Jerome Lawrence and Robert E. Lee from the famous poem by Ernest Lawrence Thayer. One of baseball's immortal Mr. Trist Speaker named Casey as one of his favorite stories. Our stars were Lionel Stander and Hal Berger, and we want to tip our baseball cap to Ann Stone, who played Mrs. Casey, and Tommy Bernard, who played Timmy. So we file out of the baseball park with regret. It's been great fun for all of us here to have a good grandstand seat to watch Casey at the Bat. It was during my school days in England that I first became fascinated by the rousing tales and verse of Rudyard Kipling. One story in particular that deeply impressed me, and many years later I was lucky enough to take part in the production of The Light That Failed. Next week, we bring it to you on Favorite Story, when once again I will play the part of Dick Helgar. Miss Heather Angel will provide both love interest and hate interest as the unpredictable Bessie. Next week on Favorite Story, Rudyard Kipling's The Light That Failed. We hope you'll be listening.
And now, boys and girls, it's time for the Story Lady.
Today's story is one I call Casey at the Bat. Once upon a time, there was an important baseball game in the town of Mudville. It was the last half of the ninth inning, and Mudville had fallen behind by 3 runs. But there was still hope. The bases were loaded. Up to bat came the mighty Casey, who was also loaded. Casey was everybody's hero and got lots of jobs shaving on TV and posing for bubblegum cards. As Casey strode to the plate, the crowd let out a big roar. The pitcher pitched. "Strike 1, the umpire yelled. Casey laughed. "Strike 2, cried the umpire. Now was the time. The pitcher wound up. Casey gritted his teeth. Then it began to rain. Casey was so relieved he passed out at home plate and drowned.
Thank you, Story Lady. Tune in again, boys and girls, when the Story Lady will tell you what really goes on in prison.
Play ball! Play ball with Babe Ruth! Play ball with the Navy! The United States Navy now brings you the adventures of Babe Ruth. And here to tell you about the immortal Babe is a man who knew him so well, his pal, the popular sports reporter, Steve Martin.
It was the 7th game of the World Series. The score was tied and Babe Ruth was at bat. A home run would win the series for the Yankees and new laurels for the big fella. But I sat there praying that he would strike out, and so save his life. We bring you the exciting story in just a moment, but first, a short but important message from Jackson Banks. Come in, Jack.
Okay, Steve, and thanks. Before Steve Martin gets started with this particular exciting adventure of Babe Ruth, I'd like to remind you young fellas that there's an important place for you in your hometown Navy. the United States Naval Reserve. If you're short of the loose ends and you're out of high school and your friends have drifted away, if you want companionship with a great bunch of fellows, all interested in the same thing, if you want to be trained in a valuable skill, the Naval Reserve is the place for you. You see, this great hometown Navy of ours, the Naval Reserve, is a completely volunteer organization where good friends meet in their spare time, on weekends and on vacations, to study and work and play together. They're trained in such things as photography, welding, engine repair, diesel engines, electronics, and any one of the Navy skills. And because the Navy believes in perfect training, the skill learned could very well take you to the top in civilian life, at a time when high specialization means high success.
You know, Jack, one of the things I like best about the Naval Reserve is the sports program.
Yes, Steve, sports are very important to the men of the Navy.
You bet. And I don't mind telling you that it is developing sort of the greatest amateur teams in the country, in every branch of sport.
Well, the Naval Reserve fellows study together, work together. Why shouldn't they play well together? Particularly when they are all so full of that wonderful Navy spirit. Look, fellas, if you're not in the Naval Reserve, you ought to be. Join your hometown Navy, the United States Naval Reserve. It will pay to see your local naval recruiting station soon. And now, back to Steve Martin and the adventures of Babe Ruth.
It was the last game of the season and all of the Yankees were on the field except one. The greatest Yankee of them all was mysteriously missing. And in the clubhouse, little manager Huggins was having a fit. Me? I was worried.
Fine thing. How do you like that, Steve? The game starts in a minute and the babe isn't here.
Gee, I hope nothing has happened to him, Hug.
Oh, what could happen to him? He's out having a good time.
Oh, no, Hug. The big fellow wouldn't miss a game on purpose, especially with the World Series starting tomorrow.
That's just it. The series starts tomorrow, so he figures today's game isn't important. Even though the stands are jammed with fans who want to see him belt one, the guy's getting too big for his britches.
Oh, you're wrong, Hug. Babe wouldn't deliberately miss a game. He'd rather play ball than eat.
Well, then where is he?
I wish I knew. I'm worried.
Oh, the big guy's the guy that ought to be worried. I'll blister his ears plenty when he shows up, and then some. You can tell him that. Well, I gotta get down that Bay Area.
I waited a while and then went up to the press box. All through the game, I kept my eye on the Yankee dugout, but the big fella didn't appear. When the game was over, and I followed the Yankees back to the clubhouse, Babe still hadn't shown up. I was getting worried for real. And Manager Huggins' face was as black as a thundercloud when the big fella walked in. The Babe's clothes were torn, his face was cut and bruised, and his knuckles were skinned. Huggins looked him up and down, and the players got quiet.
So, you finally decided to drop in and pay us a visit, huh, Babe?
I'm sorry I missed the game, Hug, but...
But what?
Well, I couldn't make it.
Oh, you were having too much fun, brawling with your bum friends, huh?
My friends aren't bums. Anyhow, I wasn't with my friends.
Well, who were you fighting with?
Never mind.
Never mind!
Look, I wish I could tell you, Hug, but I can't.
Oh, you can't, huh? Well, I can tell you something, Mr. Big Shot. First off, I'm fining you $500.
No, wait a minute.
And if the World Series wasn't starting tomorrow, I'd fire you off the team. Now you get this. No one man, not even Babe Ruth, can walk out on a game and then refuse to explain why. When this series is over, I'm trading you off the club. You're through. All finished as a Yankee.
Babe, what's this all about? Where were you this afternoon?
Skip it, Steve.
Skip it? Are you out of your mind? Hug's fit to be tied. Unless you square yourself in a hurry, he'll do as he said. Trade you down the river after the World Series.
I may not be around after the series.
What? What do you mean?
I gotta tell somebody about this. Look, Steve, you're not to print it. Or tell Hug. Promise me that.
Well, okay, babe, shoot.
Well, when I came out of the hotel today to go to the ballpark, a fella stopped me. It's just an ordinary-looking fella, but with 2 fingers missing on his right hand. Like old 3 Fingers Browns with the Cubs. Seemed awful upset about something.
Excuse me, Babe? I mean, Mr. Ruth.
Oh, Babe's okay, buddy. What can I do for you?
It's my kid, my little boy. He's awful sick.
infantile paralysis.
Ah, that's too bad.
The doctor thought, well, my boy's a great friend of yours. See, he's got a scrapbook full of all your pictures, and the doctor thought if you could come over for a minute and see my boy, it might help him get well.
Oh, why, sure. I'll come over after the game.
Oh, can't you come now? It's just a few minutes from here, and I've got my car. I can get you back to the stadium in plenty of time for the game.
Okay, let's go. So we walked over to his car. It was a sedan, and he opened the door. I started to get in, and I noticed 3 other guys in the back seat. I didn't like their looks, Steve. But before I could do anything, the fellow behind me gave me a hard push and sent me crawling into the car. And then one of the guys hit me behind the ear with a blackjack.
Oh. Holy smokes, then what, babe?
Well, when I woke up, Steve, I was in a room without much furniture in it. The guy with the fingers missing, who seemed to be the boss of the crowd, was there, and 3 other lads. It was gravelly voiced little guy who kept a gun on me, and 2 gorillas who had been in the car. The boss one gave me a glass of water, and then he made this proposition.
Okay, babe, the Yanks are 9-5 favorites to win the World Series, but they can't win if you don't try. If you don't hit any home runs, so I don't want you to try.
You mean you want me to throw the series? Why, you dirty little...
Stay where you are, big boy. I got a very itchy trigger finger.
You can't scare me. Look,
only a jerk don't know to be scared sometimes, babe. You're no jerk, so listen. The Yanks are going to lose the series.
Yeah, that's what you think.
I know. When they lose, you get $50,000 bucks. But if you cross us up, you get the business.
And how?
Well, babe, what do you say?
This is what I say, you dirty... I knocked the gun away from the squeaky voices guy, and then dropped the boss man with a right, and the 2 big fellas jumped me, and then the little one hit me with the butt again. But pretty soon I got the gun or blackjack or on the noggin, and I went to sleep again. When I woke up that time, Steve, they were dumping me out of their car up near Yonkers. I managed to pick up a ride, and you know the rest, Steve.
Holy cow, babe. Why didn't you tell Hug?
Oh, those mugs said if I did, they'd put a bullet in the Hug, too. And I know they meant business.
Oh, well, don't just sit there, babe. Come on, we'll go to the police.
Oh, no, Steve. I don't know if who those guys are or where they are. And even if I did, they deny everything. It'll just cause a huge publicity stink. And if we lose the series, it might kill baseball.
Then what are you going to do?
Well, what do you suppose? I'll do my darndest to win the series, of course.
But those mugs said they'd kill you if you did.
They were just bluffing.
Don't give me that, babe. You said just before that you were sure they meant business. Now, babe, there's only one thing to do. You can't play in this series.
Are you kidding?
No, your life is at stake.
Save it, Steve. No lousy racketeer is going to scare me off. Or dirty up the greatest game in the world, either. Now get out of here, please, Steve, and let me go to bed. I've got a World Series coming up tomorrow.
I'm convinced most of the gray hairs I've got today started sprouting in that World Series. Every time the big fella made a hit, I caught my breath and listened for the sound of a pistol over the noise of the crowd. The games went to 3-3, and then the 7th and deciding game came up in the stadium. Oh, babe.
Yeah? What is it, Steve?
Look, babe, this is the deciding game. If you win it, you might...
Steve, let's not go into that again. Go on back up to the press box. I'm going out for our team.
Both pitchers were hot. And they went into the 9th inning tied, 1-1. Pennick set the enemy down in the 9th, and it was the Yanks' turn with the top of the batting order coming up. Combs flied out, and it was Koenig's turn.
Come on, Koenig, get a hit.
Koenig went out in infield order, and then you should have had the crowd as the big fellow winced up to the plate, swinging 3 bats.
It's up to you, babe. You can do it. Take it out of the park.
The big fella took a strike, then 2 balls, and he fouled off 1. Then he took another ball. There was the big one on. I found myself praying that he would strike out and save his life. Then the pitch came, a fast one, and I closed my eyes. I had a ringing crack, and the crowd went crazy. I opened my eyes to see the ball launch high and far into the bleachers. I was waiting for the sound of the shot, waiting to see my friend fall. My heart was hammering in my ribs as he had turned to third and started for the plate, taking off his cap to the howling mob. And then I felt a hand on my shoulder as I spun around. There was a man in a gray suit who I'd seen in the stands throughout the series. Now he said,
We got them, Martin.
You did, sir?
Yes, all of them. Dingus Gearhart, Joey May, his Bradley Boy Stooge, all of them. This was the only game they came to, the big one. They had betting receipts on them, and May had a gun. I think he was getting ready to use it en route.
Good Lord.
The FBI was after those rats for a long time. But we got them at last, thanks to your descriptions and the big fella's courage.
I looked back at the field, and the big fella was just disappearing into the Yankees' dugout surrounded by his happy, cheering teammates. He was safe. My eyes got a little misty. The big fella had done the impossible again, and made it stick.
And there you have this adventure of Babe Ruth. Interesting and exciting, wasn't it? But so is life in the Naval Reserve. Interesting and exciting.
You can say that again, Jack. There's a young fellow in our block who, a couple of years ago, was spending his nights hanging around at the corner drugstore, or the pool room, just loafing, doing nothing for himself or anybody else. Then he happened to get interested in photography. And knowing the best photographic training in our town was being given by the Naval Reserve, he joined. And Jack, you should see that boy today.
I wish I could.
All of a sudden, he's alive. He thinks. He doesn't waste his time. And like the Naval Reserve itself, he's a real solid asset to the whole community. And it all happened because this chap discovered an interest. And the Naval Reserve offered him the chance to make something of himself. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being one of the greatest photographers in the whole country. It's good to see him moving up, Jack.
Yes, and that can happen to you too. Training, education, good companions, and fun and relaxation. All those things are offered. Take advantage of them. Stop in at your local naval recruiting office. You'll find that the officer in charge is a friendly man who will quickly tell you how you can profitably spend your spare time in your hometown peacetime Navy, the United States Naval Reserve. Next week.
Well, next week, Jack, I'm going to tell you how the big fella returned to the pitcher's box to catch a rat and save a brilliant young catcher from the penitentiary.
The Adventures of Babe Ruth is written by Ben Peter Freeman, produced by Woody Close, directed by Ronald Dawson, and presented by the United States Navy.
Well, Costello, I'm going to New York with you. You know Bucky Harris, the Yankees manager, gave me a job as coach for as long as you're on the team.
Look, Abbott, if you're the coach, you must know all the players.
I certainly do.
Well, you know, I've never met the guys, so you'll have to tell me their names, and then I'll know who's playing on the team.
Oh, I'll tell you the names, but you know, strange as it may seem, they give these ball players nowadays very peculiar names.
You mean funny names?
Strange names, pet names like Dizzy Dean.
His brother Daffy?
Daffy Dean.
And a French cousin?
French?
Gouffet.
Gouffet Dean. Well, let's see. We have on the bags. We have who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know who's on third.
That's what I want to find out.
I say who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
Are you the manager?
Yes.
You going to be the coach too?
Yes.
You don't know the fellas' names?
Well, I should.
Well, then who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first baseman.
The guy playing.
The guy playing.
Who's on
I'm
first?
asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, then go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who?
Yes.
Look, you got a first baseman?
Certainly.
And then who's playing first?
That's right.
When you pay out the first baseman every month, who gets the money?
Every dollar of it.
Look, all I'm trying to find out is what's the fellow's name on first base?
Who?
The guy that gets...
That's it.
Yeah, who gets the money?
He does every dollar. Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it.
Whose wife?
Yes.
Who?
What's wrong with that?
Look, all I want to know is when you sign up the first baseman, how does he sign his name to the
Who?
contract? The guy.
Who?
How does he sign?
That's how he signs it.
Who?
Yes.
Oh, look, all I'm trying to find out is what's the guy's name on first base?
No, what's on second base?
Now, I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
One base at a time.
Well, don't change the players
I'm
around.
not changing nobody.
Take it easy,
I'm
Molly.
only asking you, who's the guy on first base?
That's right.
Okay.
All right.
So, what's the guy's name on first base?
No, what is on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third. We're not even talking about
And
him.
how did I get on third base?
Why, you mentioned his name.
If I mentioned the third baseman's name, who did I say is playing third?
No, who's playing first?
What's on first?
What's on second?
I don't know.
He's on third.
There I go, back on third again. Would you just stay on third base and don't go off it?
All right, what do you want to know?
All right, now who's playing third base?
Why do you insist on putting who on third base?
What am I putting on third?
No, what is on second?
You don't want who on second?
Who is on first?
I don't know.
Third base.
Look, you got an outfield?
Sure.
Your left fielder's name.
Why?
I just thought I'd ask.
Well, I just thought I'd tell you.
Well, then tell me who's playing left field.
Who's playing first
I would
base?
stay out of the infield. I want to know what's the guy's name in left field.
No, what is on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
Third base.
The left fielder's name?
Why?
Because.
Oh, he's center field.
Look, you got a pitcher on the team?
Sure.
The pitcher's name?
Tomorrow.
You don't want to tell me today?
I'm telling you now.
Go ahead.
Tomorrow.
What time?
What time what?
What time tomorrow are you going to tell me who's pitching?
Now listen, who is pitching? Who is...
I'll break your arm, you say who's on first. Now I want to know what's the pitcher's name.
What's on second?
I don't know. Third base. Got a catcher?
Certainly.
The catcher's name?
Today.
Today. And tomorrow's pitcher.
Now you've got it.
All we got is a couple of days on the team. You know, I'm a catcher too.
So they tell me.
I get behind the plate and I do some fancy catching. Tomorrow's pitching on my team and a heavy hitter gets up.
Yes?
Now the heavy hitter bunts the ball. When he bunts the ball, me being a good catcher, I throw the guy out at first base. So I pick up the ball and I throw it to who?
Now that's the first thing you said right.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
That's all you have to do.
Is throw the ball to first base.
Yes.
All right, now who's got it?
Naturally.
Look, if I throw the ball to first base, somebody's got to get it. Now who has it?
Naturally.
Who?
Naturally.
Naturally?
Naturally.
So I pick up the ball and I throw it to naturally.
No, you don't. You throw the ball to who?
Naturally.
That's different.
That's what I said.
You're not saying it.
Yeah, I throw the ball to naturally.
You throw it to who?
Naturally.
That's it.
That's what I said.
You asked me.
I throw the ball to who?
Naturally.
Now you ask me.
You throw the ball to who?
Naturally.
That's it.
Same as you.
Well, don't change them
Same
around.
as you. I throw the ball to who? Whoever it is picks up the ball and the guy runs to second.
Yes.
Who picks up the ball, throws it to what? What throws it to? I don't know. Throws it back to tomorrow. Triple play.
Yes.
Another guy gets up and it's a long fly ball because. Why? I don't know. He's on third and I don't give a darn.
What did you say?
I said I don't give a darn.
Oh, that's a shortstop.
Thank you so much, thank you. It's not easy doing an iconic performance there. Thank you so much. I hope that you had a wonderful time circling the bases and enjoying a lovely game of America's pastime with us on those thrilling days of yesteryear. We've got an exciting season lined up featuring Jack Bunny, Suspense, Duffy's Tavern, and especially also a couple other, George Burns and Gracie Allen, but also coming up, our next show is November 15th, Sunday, 2 o'clock, right here at the Oak Park Arms. We will be doing wacky sci-fi shows, including the CBS Radio Workshop, where a bunch of spacemen visit a planet that is inhabited by vegetables. And also a show, Dimension X, which features an episode called A Logic Named Joe, in which computers are taking over the world, and you can ask a computer anything, and it'll give you the answer. Back in the 1950s. But first, of course, we'd like to thank the incredible cast of those thrilling days of yesteryear. Tim Baker, Steve Schroeder, Matt Gilbert, John Gingle, John Gould, and John Corona. Also, Jim Martin, Aaron Wilkinson, Shane Friends, and Val Glowinski. And also, special thanks to the synchronous sound effects stylings of Steve Schroeder and John Corona. great radio show would be complete without the musical magic stylings of Mr. Peter Storm on the piano. And I am today's director, producer, and also appearing Ben Dooley. And of course, we'd like to thank you, the audience, for helping our show come alive and for being here today, and so that we could bring their show back to you. As usual, we have lovely snacks and drinks out in the lounge, so please enjoy out there today and have a lovely day. And please, we look forward to seeing you back here in November for our next wacky sci-fi show. Take care.